Being able to get the most important things accomplished each day is a skill, one that today's guest, Kim Skala, has pretty close to mastered. Kim is the owner of Skala Insurance Agency, and they serve 5 generations of people in Northeast Ohio, providing clarity to the challenging terms and options of insurance. What I love most about today's episode is Kim's authenticity. She shares some of the challenges and the successes when it comes to delegating. We dug into her bottleneck and found that it really was bigger actually than what she thought it was. And so if you're sitting there thinking that maybe your bottleneck has something to do with, struggling to finish mundane tasks or getting distracted by things that are going on in the world right now, you may be surprised to find out that it was something completely different for Kim. So listen in and get ready to enjoy the awesomeness of Kim. And today we have the marvelous Kim Skala. I am super excited that you said yes to being a guest on the 25th Hour podcast. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Love you.
Yay. All right. So let's jump in and talk about your business. So you are an insurance agent.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your path to owning your business.
Sure. So, I was like 5 years old, sitting at the kitchen table across from my brother, and you hear insurance because my parents grew up owning an agency. My dad opened us in 1969. They got married, had me in 1974. So that's how their life was. That's what we knew as kids. Calls in the middle of the night. My house is on fire. Well, did you call the fire department? My dad would be half asleep. No. Why not? Hang up, call them, so there's been some growing up in it. And then I went to college and I said I was never going to sell insurance because I'm not a salesperson. I'm never going to do it. And worked for the company nationwide as an underwriter. And I worked for them more as a tech support analyst and realized that I was either going to be a lady in a short skirt and high heels somewhere being a babysitter of other subordinates, or I should go work for my dad and take over the agency business of his family. So that's what I chose. It was a pay cut. It was a relocation, but in the end, it's turned out to be the best decision. So I now own Skala Insurance Agency, LLC. I purchased the renewals from my father, who had Skala Insurance Agency, Inc. for 50 years. It was 1969, 2 weeks before Woodstock. So there's a time frame for you. And I bought in 2014, and I've gone independent since I bought a nationwide book from Dad in 2014. Nationwide has encouraged all their agents to do it, so you had to do it. And actually, it's the best decision for us because now we have options for customers and we can live true to what we like doing as a team at Skala.
So talk a little bit about that going independent piece. Like, what does that mean?
I think there was a couple times I thought I would lose my mind because you're used to working with one carrier and how they function and how they produce and turn over things and communicate with the agency and so on. And now you have to learn the 10 carriers' ways of doing things, their processes, their rating schemas, what's their sweet spots, what's best rated with this carrier versus that carrier, what won't this carrier take, where can we put this type of risk now? So it's mostly putting things in their places so that you have a point of reference when someone calls and says, hey, I'm opening a new whatever and I need insurance. And you're like, okay, Rolodex, where should I place that? What carriers are good for that? So we're still learning that, but we've gotten a lot better at identifying where to start with people now because we were blindly quoting all the carriers for a year.
Right.
And it was a lot more time consuming. And now we're able to turn it over a little more quickly. But it's taken some time and some tweaking and some team learning and effort and sharing tidbits at our staff meetings. And did you know you could do this? Did you know you should do that? things that you pick up along the way, trial and error. That's the nature of our business, is you have to learn by doing a lot of the things, because you never run into the same thing twice. Typically, it's usually something new, always, that's challenging. And that's what makes the job fun for me, at least.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, because you enjoy the challenge.
Right. And the different parts of it. I was an underwriter, I wasn't technical. The only piece of the insurance facade that I didn't have is claims. And I've certainly handled many of those since 2004, when I became an agent myself under my dad. So I feel like, with all of our combined knowledge on the staff, we can help people better than ever in the history of Skala.
Absolutely. And as a client, I can totally agree with that. Because
excellent, thanks.
Right.
We tried our best. We always do. That's the thing, is our whole team effort is what's best for the customer. And where it's coming from is the fact that we actually do care about the people that we work with. Like, a lot of our customers are friends, family. Referrals are our number one new business incoming reason. So that's something to say. Being around for 50 some years, you got that referral system still going, and it's strong to the point that we're still growing because of referrals. So you have to be doing something right for people to refer you.
Right. Absolutely. I agree 1,000%. And you guys are amazing at what you do. So you've mentioned a team a couple times, and I have met your team, and they're really awesome individuals. And I know awesome is such a throwaway word, but when you say they care, they do care. They care about the clients, they care about each other, and they're invested in professional development. They're invested in personal development. Like, it's more than just a 9-to-5 type of a job for them. Like, they care about the company.
Right. Mm-hmm.
When you think back, like, if the Kim Skala of today could have talked to the Kim Skala of, I've just purchased my dad's company. Like, when it comes to working with your team or leading a team, what advice would you have given that new owner?
A few things I've learned, some from you. Is the task appropriate for the person? So some of the people were in the improper spots when I took over from Dad as far as positions. Probably to breathe. It's going to be okay, really, I promise. And probably learn to delegate more quickly. It took you a long time. Those would be the things I would tell myself.
All right. I love that. So let's talk a little bit on the delegating part. So when you say, it took you a long time to delegate, I
came from working as an employee of my dad and being a co-worker with all the staff, to being the boss, and then being the boss of my dad for 2 years and all of my coworkers. So that was just immense in itself, in trying to find how to communicate newly with everyone. So a lot of the skills, I think, is when I called you at one point, I'm like, I am so not in the right mind to deal with some of these people. Like, what do I, it was totally new for me, never being the boss of anything except my family, right? You're the boss of the house, but as far as being the boss of coworkers and people your age or older than you, that was a skill I did not have. So I worked on that, and I think it was good. And I think that I've come to a place where you have to know the people that you work with. And luckily, a lot of the people are family, friends. I've known them for quite some time. Some aren't. But even the ones you thought you knew, you still need to know where they're at now. And my biggest asset are my staff. If I didn't have their knowledge and their buy-in and their get to work, do it attitude that they each have, that I don't know how I picked them to keep them so good that way, but thankfully they are, motivated, because sometimes there's people that are just not self-motivators. And I'm glad that I have a team that does they do see the greater good of the big picture. And I try to share that with them. It's important to share that with your team and find out what one person is motivated by money. They want more pay. Then another person just wants like gift cards because they like to go do Home Depot projects. Another person wants time off because they'd rather spend more time with their kids. So what is each individual's motivator? And then you build their incentive plan around that.
Right. Which you are genius at. Like one of the things I love when we're talking is how quarterly you do those get-togethers and they have.
It's actually monthly.
Is it monthly?
That we play poker, one
Yes.
per month sales or activity points earned by the agents or the customer service reps. And usually people have between 8 and 19 cards in their hands by the time their points add up. So you got 7 people around the table with that many cards, and you go 2 rounds of poker and you turn in 2 cards. You get your best 5 cards, and the top player wins the top. Usually if it's level 3, it's like 300, 150, 75 for second, third. And then there's jokers in the deck, and any of the jokers are worth $50 gift card to your choice. So it's just a little extra fun for anybody on the team. Even a CSR can win the big hand because it's even. So you're not agent and CSR, you're team Skala playing the game.
Right. Right. And I love how you have incorporated fun into, I would say, everything that you do. And that might be a little too large, but maybe not.
Right. So I'm the treasurer of Red Key Network right now, my women's group. And one of the other board members said to me, "You always just bring the smile to everything. So thank you for bringing the smile." And I'm thinking, well, that is what I try to do every day. So thank you for that justification. Like I bring a little bit of joy to whoever I'm with.
Yeah. You're like, thank you for noticing.
While having a good time.
Right. You're like, thank you for noticing. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes. So one of the things I know that you have really, really, really diligently put your focus into is delegating. And you've been able to identify, like, what are the things that you should keep, or what's your zone of genius? So for our listeners who are in a similar place to where you are, who were workers and then owners, how did you decide what to own? Like, what are the tasks that are Kim Skala's tasks?
Right. So of course, in my business, there's always going to be that list of about 20 customers who are always going to be Kim Skala's people. And anybody referred by them, knows them, communicates with them on any level are mine. That's just the way that is. Same with when my dad was the owner. There was just some people that had to be working with John Skala. That's it. Then there's is it service, or does it need my expertise? So that's kind of like in my mind what I ask myself now. Is this a service job that I have 4 people on staff or 3 or whatever that can do it? Or is this something that I need to give it a piece before I give it away? And then that goes in like another pile to work on as a B pile, if you will. I have A, B, C pile. My dad has all these brain things. He'll be so proud to hear I'm using his A, B, and C pile. So you got to put things in piles. And so then sometimes, like one of your techniques, you said, well, maybe try just working one thing off of each pile. That way you're at least getting something done from the now, the middle, and the lost it pile, like the one that you let it go. You lost those tasks. They just got away from you. So I lost it tasks now because I'm flicking them off more quickly than letting them sit there and thinking on them, because I'm a thinker. So I've stopped thinking so much too. Like I've noticed that I need to not think so much on something. Sometimes I have to have faith in my staff to do that thinking, because they are capable.
Right. They are very capable.
Right. So I've got to learn to not think so much, right? And give it away. So that's one of the things. Now, another thing I attended with you at one point was identify a task that you'd like to delegate and figure out who it would be the best for, and then delegate it. Sometimes you can't delegate it as much as you'd like to. And that is my banking and my business books right now still. I think my next step, because Red Key Network has helped me learn how to be a QuickBooks learner, it would be to do everything in QuickBooks for my business, but I'm not there yet. So I'm
Right.
still evolving and learning, and that's okay, because you should, and each human should evolve and learn every day. My dad still tells me he's still learning stuff, and he's in his 80s, and every day I still learn stuff.
Right. And once you're able to move the business to QuickBooks, it's going to be a lot easier for you then to delegate that out. And
That's
so you,
right. And then I can have someone be entering everything, and they don't need to know all the digits, just the ones that need to be known. So
right.
looking at that, but it wasn't a task that was ready to be delegated.
Right. Well, I was gonna say you identified, the perfect sticking point there of, it's something you want to move off your plate, but you didn't yet have the right process to move it.
Exactly.
You knew that there may or may not be the right person, but before
That
you
was
could
the other thing. I had wanted it to be person A, and it really should be person B. And
Right.
so now, because I want it to be person B, I have to prepare it a little differently.
Exactly. And so I think the lesson here for all of us, myself included, is that it takes a couple tries sometimes to delegate those big pieces off your plate. Like there's always low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
But your banking is a bigger piece.
Yeah, it's huge. And I have to have my hands on it still and my arms around it. And I've noticed that doing it still for my own good is giving me a better idea of the income I'm getting from the different carriers as we begin to write more with them. And as we begin to see our first year renewals with some of them, I'm seeing how the money's flowing, which is important. Once I learn how the money's flowing a little bit better too, I'll feel a little more inclined to be able to give that task.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. So this is a perfect place to transition into the productivity bottleneck, because we're talking about how delegating, you are excelling at that skill. And even though there is a piece hanging out that still you have the opportunity to delegate out, you have a plan to do that.
Sure.
And there are a bazillion other areas of time management hanging on out there. And so I'm excited to ask you a couple questions to see if we can dig into what is your current productivity bottleneck, because we all have one. So myself included, because I just found another one for me this morning. Always something. So the question I have for you is, what is it that prevents you from getting everything you want to get accomplished each day?
So I have two completely different answers to this question.
Good.
Two completely different things that's happening.
Good.
One is my lack of focus from being distracted by world events is a bottleneck for me.
Okay.
The other is the task I just don't want to do, period, done. Don't want to do it. It sits way over there, and then it becomes a problem. Those are my bottlenecks, because then it gets old, and then I'm not returning that call, and I'm feeling horrible about it. It's making me go down that rabbit hole.
All right. So tell me more about lack of focus due to current events.
Just, COVID, my husband being sick, my daughter having a head cold, just like the little things that all add up and become in your brain, like those monkeys in your brain, the triggers. And so I work on like how to separate that from, but then I feel like I'm not being true to where I need to process. So
okay. And tell me more about the tasks that you don't want to do. Tell me more about what's happening there.
So sometimes it's one of those tasks where the customer is going to get back to you with the information, but it hasn't gotten back to you yet. So then you put a task in, and then you follow up on it, and they still didn't get back to you, and you're sending them follow up. And I should probably delegate the follow up at second follow up. So I'm learning that as I'm figuring out the bottleneck of why I have more red lines. The other
Mhm.
I realized why I was so overwhelmed because I am the leading salesperson for my October sales report. And it's just the way that the grapes fall. Sometimes
Right.
you get sales in bunches, then you have a dry spell. All of my sales just happened to hit and I had to push go a lot. So all of my other menial tasks that check on this, check on that I could maybe delegate, but my question always is it faster to delegate that when I could have just done it myself? And I know you've dealt with this 100 times, and that's why I try to predetermine. So there's certain customers I have to keep, and those are the ones that become my bottleneck, I think, because I feel like I need to hug them.
Yeah. Okay. So and my brain's going, of course, 80 places all at once.
Right.
So the first question may seem like it's coming out of left field. However, I promise there's a method to my madness. How much downtime do you have during the day?
It depends on where I'm working, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm at my one office, we take group downtimes sometimes, not a whole lot of my own by myself downtime. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In the car, to and from work, in the shower.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I've identified this, but my family is important. And so that cuts into that family time. And my work, if I walk away, which I need to do more, then I'm like, oh, but then I'll be here late, which cuts into my family time, right?
Yeah. Okay. So one of the pieces that you said was, I was overwhelmed in October because, I was the number one sales, like that piece. And I, of course, caught the word overwhelmed because that's one of those words that I look for in conversations.
Sure.
And, which led me to think your two pieces, the, being distracted by current events and your procrastination on menial tasks. Both of those, I think, can fall under the umbrella of self-care. And I know that can seem like a huge leap. So let me explain why.
No, I'm with you because I'm that human that is realizing you have to take care of yourself in order. And I told my daughter, I'm like, you got to take care of yourself so you can get to school, so you can do what you need to do to be a human,
Yeah, yes. And so if we can back that up a little bit, let's take the menial task piece. Like we've talked about willpower before and how willpower is like a battery and you have to keep recharging it. And so if there's no charger throughout, like if you are not recharging, then those menial tasks are harder to get into, but it's also taking longer to get all the other stuff done.
Sure.
So to your point of if I take downtime, my family's most important to me and I want to be able to spend time with them. And so if I take downtime at work, that means I have more work to do and less time. Like it's that whole snowball thing.
Yes.
Yet it's actually, it seems counterintuitive, but it's actually backwards. The more you can rest, the more efficient you are getting the tasks done, the more time you actually have for your family.
Yeah.
No, and so when you look at your other piece about distracted by what's going on in the world, COVID, your husband, your kid, everything, when your reserves are higher, it's easier to take all that on.
Sure. For how long?
Right. Well, I know.
Well,
right. But it's a matter of keep replenishing and keep pushing those reserves up. And so I think your actual productivity bottleneck is needing some downtime, some self-care time, some.
Right. Well, I did take Monday off and I gave myself some downtime because I knew it was coming. Like I could feel it. I needed that day. I needed a day, but I probably needed 3 days.
So yay, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate that you took the day.
Right.
Let's celebrate that you took the day. And then let's also not discount what you said about how you probably needed 3 days.
Right.
And, that
Feel
was
like I had a rest. Right.
well, and I think one of the reasons that this is so, that this is holding so much for me right now is, remember I said, everyone has a productivity bottleneck, and I found mine this morning, another one. And it's this, once you and I are finished today, I'm taking the rest of the day off.
Right.
Because I know that I am mentally and I don't want to say I'm at my breaking point.
No, but you feel it.
There.
You can tell when you live with yourself long enough, you can tell.
Thank you. Oh my God, I love how you phrase that. Yeah. Like I'm getting it in my shoulders a little bit. I'm not super excited to open up my email. Like I know what my triggers are.
Like, okay, here we go.
Right. Yeah. Like a client just texted me and I was kind of like, and I was like, oh my God, like the clients are the best part of what I do.
Right.
And if I'm grumpy because they texted me, like there's a problem. Yeah. And that was like, oh, you need to take some time.
Here's your sign.
Right, exactly. Oh my gosh, yes. So I heard NABO had their WBC recently, and there was a line in there about how you fill other people's cup from what's in your saucer. And I was like, what are they talking about? And they're talking about how that teacup sits in a saucer. And so once your teacup is full and overflows, you take the overflow to fill other people instead of taking your stuff that you need for you to fill other people. And I'm like, ooh, I really like that visual. And so I actually brought in one of those, I had an old fashioned little teacup and saucer, and it's sitting over on the table behind my computer. Yep. As a reminder.
Yeah. That's good.
All right. So we found your bottleneck. Thumbs up.
All right.
And you know what you need to do. So we are not going to go into that right now on the podcast.
I got a plan. It just takes time to formulate it,
Yeah, it does. And it's a reminder again about, okay, you're most important. Let's do what we have to do.
If I'm not around, nothing goes on at this business, or whatever. It's like I have to keep myself in a healthy spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So speaking of business, what advice would you give people right now as they're looking to purchase insurance? What would you tell them?
Well, I would say call Skala Insurance. And then I would say the reason you should is because we are the most equipped as an independent agency that we've ever been, with many carriers to choose from to ask them what's best for you and you what's best for you. So you can ask us questions and we can educate you and you can learn, because learning is half of the battle of insurance. It's a language barrier. Someone selling you insurance starts talking bodily injury and comprehensive, and people go, and they tune out. They did what are you talking about? So we try to speak in terms like, when you hurt somebody, you have this amount of coverage. And if you damage something, you have this amount of, like we try to talk in language that the normal human could understand, because it's like a medical field language, but it's insurance. So just like the tax attorney language, it's its own thing. So part of what we do is try to educate and tell people, ask them the right questions. Do you have AAA? Well, then you don't need towing. Why would I sell you towing if you have AAA? But some places don't ask the right questions. You got to know the questions to ask the right questions and get to know the people. I mean, in conversation, many a times I've learned, oh, your wife runs a business out of her house? Well, that would have been nice to know when I was quoting your insurance. So you have to really get to know people and ask the right question.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing is, when you're looking for insurance, you're looking for someone who has the opportunity to quote in multiple carriers.
Yes.
And someone who actually answers the phone when you call and takes the time to have a conversation in regular people language, not in insurance language.
Sure. But we also want to be known as someone that can be communicated with electronically. So we have a website and we have a contact us form. If you don't want to talk to us, we'll email with you. I've done a whole new business auto policy last week via email. We didn't speak once. So I mean, it's the generation you're working with is important to know because they all communicate differently.
Right. Perfect. And I think that right there is the key to your company
Mhm.
is you meet them where they are versus having them meet you where you are.
Right. And based on what technology level they have, there's some carriers you won't even speak to them about because they don't do paperless.
Right.
This client might just want paper, everything still in the mail, and they don't email, they don't have an email. So there's certain carriers that still honor that type of, service and offer that, but some don't anymore. So you don't even talk about those carriers to the client, but you need to know that about your client before you start running quotes, because then the best quote might not be with one of the carriers that they can do that with, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. All right. So the final question, are you ready? When everything goes according to plan and you get that extra hour, that 25th hour in the day, what do you like to do with it?
So if I were going to be boring but truthful, I would like to spend it with myself reading books of my choice.
Okay. Hey, that is not boring. Thank you first for being truthful. And that is totally my answer.
I always want to be reading something and learning, or just for fun sometimes, like just the mind break.
Yeah.
So when I do take breaks, I'm reading.
Nice. And as am I. They know me by first name at my library. So I'm very proud of.
There you go. I agree.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for sharing your expertise with us. Thank you for being open and authentic during our bottleneck piece and sharing what's going on, because you are not the only person in the whole wide world who has the challenge, has that challenge. And I don't want to say challenge, I hate to say that, but who is overcoming that bottleneck, because I am, so many other people are, and it's a progression.
Right. When you have to keep being resilient and going forward, even if it's just little micro inches that you move, you're still going forward. You're not stuck.
Exactly.
Stuck, you got caught one of your lifelines, like Lisa.
There we go. Absolutely. So thank you for your time today, Kim. I so appreciate you.
Always. Take care.
Are you wondering what your productivity bottleneck is? Yours the fact that you need more self-care, or like Kim did, or is it something else entirely? Take our productivity bottleneck quiz to find out what is holding you back from accomplishing everything you want to each day. Just go to impactivestrategies.com/free-quiz.